CNN's Elena Treen is in Pittsburgh, where President Trump is also set to speak here in a few minutes. Elena.
Holy Toledo. We got Epstein releases, or a lack of release, and it's frustrating the Republicans, which, by the way, I had some information on that. I don't know where it is, but there was a poll that was conducted that showed that like 80% of Democrats are not happy. And I think it's like 70% of 70% of independents are not happy with the Epstein lack of release. And 50% of Republicans are also not happy with the lack of Epstein release, which is crazy. I know some will say, oh, you're so, like, Republicans are so cucked. But the fact that Donald Trump has actively been defending a thing, okay, and that 50% are unhappy with that thing that Donald Trump is defending is crazy.
What more are you learning about how the White House is handling the fallout here?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's very clear from our reporting, our conversations with White House officials, Trump administration officials, that he wants specifically.
Yeah, look, where is it? Yeah, we got the Thomas Massey thing as well, but look at this, brother. Do you think the government is covering up evidence it has about Epstein? Yes, 67%. No, 8%. Okay? And on that poll, wait, hold on. Here's a poll on it as well. Are you satisfied or dissatisfied with the amount of info the federal government has released about the Epstein case? 50% say dissatisfied, 29% say doesn't matter, 3% say satisfied, 17% say unsure. Now, this poll that was also conducted on this YouGov poll, a separate poll that was conducted on whether or not the government is covering up evidence it has about Epstein, had a 67% yes, 8% no. Yes, among the Democrats was at 82%. Among independents, it was 69%. Among Republicans, it was 50%. That is a crazy high percentage for Republicans who are a cult. Think about how ginormous a percentage of Republicans are saying that they actively think the government is covering up evidence about Epstein. That is crazy. Okay? That's crazy, especially after their God King, the servant of the white nationalists in America, Donald Trump, the cult leader, said, stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. No one cares about this. You do not care about this. Usually when he does that, I mean, the Republicans that said, I don't want to bomb Iran, very quickly after Trump bombed Iran, were like, oh, it's actually good now. It's like the NPC chip meme, you know? New chip gets put into the brains of the NPCs to say like, oh, bombing Iran is good now. And then they just start repeating it. In this circumstance, clearly not enough Republicans are on board.
This story, or people to move on from this story. He's trying to get his base to let this go away, and he's directing some of his team behind closed doors to do what they can to help it die down. That's why we actually saw the president directly making calls this weekend. We know he reached out to Charlie Kirk, a fierce supporter of his, the head of the Turning Point USA, and they held a summit this weekend. He had tried to, convince him to, knock off with the criticism, tamp down some of the criticism of the handling of this Epstein case, and we actually saw Kirk yesterday say that for now he is not going to comment further on all of this. And we also know that the vice president, J.D. Vance, he was trying to play peacemaker with people within the administration where there's been infighting on this between the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. He also called Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, and Attorney General Pam Bondi were reporting. But just to add to some of what we heard from the president right there, he's been very full-throated in his defense of Bondi repeatedly now in the last several days. But he also argued that he believes that if she believes that they can put out some more of these files and have them do it in a credible way, that she should. But then he also
okay, we're back. Hello, can you hear me? I'm back. I don't know what happened. I got kicked off again. I don't know what the is happening. That was weird. It just like randomly goes it will randomly stop streaming. Like OBS will go 0, and it's like not immediate. It's weird. Where I will lose my stream key, where it'll say like, oh, you don't have a stream key, and I don't know what it is. I don't know.
His political opponents saying they made up some of this idea that there was a file list or a client list in the first place. Take a listen.
on Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
So a few things to note there, and of course I want to really point out that when he references former Presidents Obama and Biden or former FBI Director James.
Bro, I swear to God, streaming right now feels like it's just like a sinking ship, and I just have to constantly plug new holes. Like there's just a new hole that's happening, and I have to plug it, and then another hole opens up, and I have to plug that one too. I don't know what the is happening. It's like, yeah, I got to keep hitting QTEs. Crazy.
James Comey saying that they made up the Epstein files. I'd remind you that a lot of people in the president's base and even some people in the administration had been the ones who had really been pushing this idea that these Epstein files needed to be released, that there was more to them, that there was potential accomplices listed in them. So I just want to give you that quick fact check. But look, all to say, I think the big point on this is a story now that has been out for over a week, and the backlash we have seen from his base, from the MAGA wing of his party, has not really quieted down despite the president's efforts to get them to move on from this. And so that's why he's continuing to really have to come out here and defend the attorney general, but it doesn't look like he's changing his tune on that just yet. Brianna.
Yeah, it does not. Elena Treen, thank you for that report. Let's go now to CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. And Harry Enton, there's a new CNN poll that's just out. How's the controversy impacting the president's support?
Yeah, I would say that the word is dissatisfied. That is how Americans feel in terms of the releases so far of the Epstein case. Take a look here. Epstein case, amount of info release. The winner here, 50% dissatisfied. Doesn't matter, 29%, not heard enough, 17%. But look at the bottom of your screen. The percentage that are satisfied is just 3%. That's 1, that's 2, that is just 3%. I feel like the count on Sesame Street. Just 3% of Americans are satisfied so far with the amount of information released. The clear winner in this particular case is 50%. Half of the public is dissatisfied, at least so far.
And are you seeing a big difference between how Republicans and Democrats are viewing this?
No, and that I think is kind of the interesting sort of nugget in what's going on here. You see this 50% dissatisfied, and let's break it down by party. Okay, Epstein case, amount of info released. Look at this. You get 43% of lean GOP, that's Republicans and independents who lean towards the Republican Party, who are dissatisfied. Look at this. Just 4% satisfied? My goodness gracious. When you only have 4% that is with Donald Trump on a particular issue, that is ridiculously low. I've never seen anything quite like it. How about lean Democrat? 60% dissatisfied. Compare that to 3% who are satisfied. Again, 4%, 3% Republican, Democrat. You rarely ever see this type of agreement. Now, of course, there's another divide in American politics, one that has increased over the past few decades, and that is
the American public is united on this issue, not dissimilar to how Congress is united on defending Israel. This is a beautiful moment of unification, okay? Where a beautiful moment of unity where every single person in American society broadly is like, we want to know what took place. Come on, dude. I haven't seen this kind of unity since I've looked at the halls of Congress and analyzed their approach to Israel.
Whites with a college degree, whites without a college degree. But in this particular case, we see agreement. What are we talking about? This Epstein case, amount of info released, dissatisfied, 55% of white college graduates and 53% of white non-college graduates, Donald Trump's historic base, yet the majority are dissatisfied.
Really interesting numbers. Harry Enton, thank you so much. Boris?
Let's dig deeper on this with former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Andy, thanks so much for being with us. I want to start with what you make of this rift between the current Deputy Director and the DOJ, and then by extension, the White House.
Sure, Boris. So the tension between the deputy director and the AG is really untenable. This is a bad thing for the FBI, bad thing for the Department of Justice, and really not the kind of thing that, in my experience, having worked for many attorneys general, never seen anything like this before. And I can't imagine any other attorney general ever tolerating an act of disrespect along the lines of what allegedly took place between Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino in the White House when they got into some trading accusations and some sort of shouting match in front of the president's chief of staff. I can't imagine that happening. DOJ and FBI frequently knock heads on it.
Son, if I made hate slop YouTube channel to pay my bills, but made them purposely bad, which showed full context, would you be against that? I might do it anyway, but just wondering on some. No, just make not a hate slop video YouTube channel. Make a love slop YouTube video channel. Plenty of positive YouTube channels have popped up that care about accuracy, historical truths, and whatnot that I have highlighted and identified and promoted, and they've been blowing up. You don't have to lose sight of your conscience either. Like, love doesn't play, little bro. Yes, it does. Yeah, my TikTok clippers have been doing crazy numbers. There's plenty of new channels that have popped up in the process, like Overzealots, North Star, Chris Kunzler. I think you didn't see it. You didn't see the memo. Superman made woke back, okay? Brought woke back. It's super woke man time now. Kindness is punk rock. Helping others is considered punk rock now.
Issues and have different opinions about the way to handle
Have you even watched it? Superman? Yeah, I did. What the hell? Not only did I watch it, but I covered it as well. Was there a hidden message in Superman 2025?
investigations, but those conversations always take place
And annoyed the out of people in your subreddit? Lamau, wait, what? Why?
in the house, within the family. You never let those things spill over to the public. It's important for the leadership, for the workforce in both organizations, that they see the leadership together as one team, in which the attorney general makes the final call on everything, period, no exceptions.
I wonder whether you think it's likely that Bongino continues in this role, because even though we just heard less than an hour ago President Trump say that he likes Dan Bongino, he has been much more effusive in his support for Attorney General Bondi. It doesn't seem like she's going anywhere.
And, you know, Boris, that makes total sense, right? It's very hard to replace an attorney general. I mean, he had a hard time getting Pam Bondi, obviously, with the problems the administration had initially selecting Matt Gaetz. You don't have any of those sorts of issues replacing a deputy director, as I myself learned. A deputy director can be reassigned, can be removed. Dan Bongino, I would expect, could be convinced to resign if he's leaning that way. He said several negative things about his experience so far, said that he doesn't like the job, that sort of stuff. So I find it almost hard to believe that Dan will be able to continue in that role, with all of the drama that they've put forth in the last week, on top of his already fairly negative reviews about the role. He's a guy that is going to have a hard time getting the confidence of the workforce, because he's not an FBI agent. He doesn't come from the organization. And this certainly has not made that any easier for him.
Just a moment ago, you were being self-deprecating, saying that it was easy to find a replacement as Deputy FBI Director. But there was something that President Trump said this afternoon that I found interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on, because he suggested that in a White House briefing in which he was presented evidence regarding the Epstein files, he found whatever was in the briefing to not be credible, and he charged that James Comey, among others, had something to do with that information not being credible, insinuating perhaps that it was tampered with, that they made up these files. You took over as acting FBI director when Trump fired Comey back in May of 2017. It wasn't until summer of 2019 that Jeffrey Epstein was even arrested. So I wonder if at any point while you were serving in the Bureau, whether as deputy or as acting director, you came across any information at all related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, short answer, Boris, is none. Not in any way. And when you understand the timeline, it makes perfect sense, right? Epstein's initial investigation by local authorities and the FBI in Southern Florida ended with an indictment in 2008, I believe, if I have that year correct. And that was the indictment that was mysteriously, essentially given away by then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who then later served in Trump's first term as his Secretary of Labor. So Mr. Acosta basically washed the case away with what we call a non-prosecution agreement, in which Epstein was able to plead guilty to 2 very minor local offenses and serve a pretty relaxed form of incarceration for 18 months. There was no activity investigated.
It was unheard of for any person that was caught doing what Jeffrey Epstein was caught doing. It was unheard of. Brother, he was allowed to leave the facility as a sex trafficker of minors. He was allowed to leave the prison and go stay at his house. That's insane. Like, that's not, like, there are obviously crimes. There are some crimes where you're allowed to do that, right? But it's crazy that he was allowed to literally leave the prison as a prolific sex trafficker of minors. And the prosecutor that gave him that deal, that also shut down the subsequent FBI federal investigation that was taking place. Okay. Yeah. Unsupervised. Yes, exactly. He is Alexander Acosta, who became Trump's labor secretary.
Activity on Epstein until 2019, as you indicated, when the Southern District of New York opened the investigation that ultimately landed him in jail and where he killed himself. So Jim Comey was not in the FBI when the early investigation was tanked by Alex Acosta, or the later one was started by Jeffrey Berman, who was the attorney, the U.S. attorney in the Southern District at the time. So that allegation is absolutely preposterous. That's standard Donald Trump, whenever he's in trouble, to start to throw rocks at Jim Comey, Barack Obama, myself, our former colleagues. We just expect that now and disregard it anytime we hear it.
Andrew McCabe, always appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Boris.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I'll tell you what, Kurt Metzger.
Oh, Joseph Robinette Rogan. Joseph Robinette Rogan. Is he, among many others, I feel like, is jumping ship here. This video details the political grift is over by American Redact. Details how all of these podcasters that like rode the MAGA train and sucked it dry are saying, you know, enough is enough. We don't like it. Joe Woken, they're saying. Let's see what he has to say about this.
From the beginning, and especially when you found out that Comey's daughter was going to be the judge. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah. Wasn't she the same judge on the Ghislaine Maxwell case? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did hear this.
Yeah. Bro, where's the videos? They were telling us the videos are going to come out. Incredibly high-profile people doing horrendous things, evil things.
Stop giving this piece of shit grace. When have I done that? Like, maybe in like 2017. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, I forgot. Trump also has another Epstein statement that just came out, fresh off the presses, before we move on to Joe Woken. Okay?
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why
I
do you
don't
think that is?
understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time.
Boring is boring. He's been dead. He's been dead for a long time. Why do you care? Stop caring. Please stop caring. I hate that you care about this thing that I obviously also talked about and said I would deliver to you.
It was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier.
Dog, okay, you know what this is like? You know what I just realized? This is like when Israel defenders will be like, oh, it's blood libel to say that Israel's killing children. It only makes people go, wait a minute, but Israel is killing children. Is blood libel real? What the That's what he's doing. He's literally telling his supporters who have understandably, or not understandably, but like his supporters who think like Russiagate is a bad thing, Russiagate is fake, it's phony, that the Epstein Association is also phony, just like Russiagate. Basically, this is going to backfire because it makes it feel like people go, wait, maybe there are tapes. Like, what do you mean? Now I think maybe the tapes are real, because like they all obviously believe and are firmly committed to the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. It's crazy. the Democrats are doing the same thing, but there's a lot more important things to focus on. No, I would say that the Democrats are actually kind of pushing on this, surprisingly enough, which is exciting. Oh, yeah, the UN, all three independent experts on the UN Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory in Israel have resigned amid a broader U.S. crackdown. They resigned because they didn't want to get hit with sanctions, as Francesca Albanese has been by America. It's pretty up.
People are going to go to jail.
Oops, sorry. Let's continue.
Which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say.
It's so boring. This Epstein stuff is so boring. Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, this guy, he's so nervous. I've never seen him like this. I've never seen the boy this nervous to move the conversation away. It's kind of crazy. Normally he's able to just like jujitsu his way out of this stuff, you know? Bob and weave, move along. Nothing to see here, but this is one of those things where he's just like, why do people keep saying I'm a pedophile? I've only had sex with one child. Like, what the Please stop. It's crazy. Don't say it. Don't say it. Stop saying it. Don't say I've been blackmailed. I don't even think that, I'm going to be honest, I don't even think that he's like implicated directly in the Epstein files in some capacity. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I think the real reason, my mom just said, please, I'm sure he is. Like, she's like, no. She's like, she doesn't believe it. Anyway, but for me, I think the real reason is like, I think he got the boss call from Israel. That's what I think. Because when Richie Torres came out against it, that's when I was like, maybe there's some other stuff going on here. Like I could see like the American intelligence community, or at least like sympathetic figures of Trump being like, yeah, we can burn some of this stuff. But then Israel being like, you can't burn this. And then he's like, my bad, I was wrong. Would you like if people kept asking for information on your dead secret lover? Oh, he loves Jeffrey Epstein.
Hey, let them have it.
This is wild. And it's funny to see. Also, Ro Khanna and Representative Thomas Massie are introducing the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bipartisan bill to require the Attorney General to release the files within 30 days. Representative Massie is working on the rule to ensure there is a vote. The public deserves to know where every member stands. This also, especially coming from Thomas Massie, this also feels a little bit like, oh, I mean, isn't this new? No, this is new. This is after the House vote took place. This is another one. Earlier this morning, the House, every Republican unanimously voted against releasing this, but this is a new one. Wait, what is this? Jeffrey Epstein files likely destroyed Republican congressman says. Oh, that's awesome. Epstein. That's a new angle. Except that's not what Trump said. Trump said they wrote the Epstein files. So, this is from July 10th. Well, Trump already destroyed this as an argument. So, CNN covering Epstein conspiracy now.
About Epstein.
Nothing about Epstein. I'm not going to talk about Epstein.
So while some right-wing media outlets are moving on, these conspiracy theories about elites abusing kids are still swirling online and on the air.
People like me will not stop talking about this. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing.
But this is why conspiracy theories fester. The government says there is no evidence of a so-called client list. This means listeners have been swallowing lies for a long time.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Commentators like Glenn Beck say they want and need some sort of closure.
That's not true. He literally demanded to ask the one Trump supporter that called in that was demanding the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, what would it take for you to shut the up? He just straight up said that.
And fall in line or continue to fight for answers. That is the rift on the right, one that even President Trump can't easily fix. And these conspiracy theories, they're not like a fire that can be extinguished, Aaron. They're more like nuclear fallout. You can try to minimize exposure, try to avoid the area, but radioactivity does not disappear. 15 years ago, Trump was pushing the birther lie. 15 years later, some people still believe it. Yeah. And I suspect 15 years from today, some people will still buy into these grandiose Epstein theories.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at this point, I think, why not? Let everybody see it. All right, thanks so much, Brian. Thanks. And next, Trump all but admitting that he's using the trade war to help out the man known as the Trump of...
Oh, the clip, Vinny Kitty Trumper. Oh, here's the Glenn Beck video. We have to watch this. This is so funny.
Go to
Travis from South Dakota calls into Glenn Beck, and you have to see how Glenn Beck reacts to this, because it is so instructive on how these guys operate.
Travis in South Dakota. Hello, Travis.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, Jason. I tell you what, guys, I feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about.
Oh my God, I love that he goes, "You don't shut the up about 2020, but you want us to shut the up about Jeffrey Epstein." That's crazy. That's way more important.
Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And I tell you what, I've also lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are prominent figures in this country, because they are saying, you know what, this doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, dude. I told you this ain't going away. I told you this is a break-off point for many. This is a person who's calling the Glenn Beck show. Think about how in the tank you are, that you are literally a fan of Glenn Beck in the year 2025. Okay? He's not on Fox News anymore. He's on a network that is barely held together by big donors at the Blaze Network. And this guy from South Dakota is calling in to his favorite content creator, Glenn Beck, on the verge of tears. Okay? He's on the verge of tears. He's like, dude, what the my entire worldview is falling apart, dude. This is straight up. This dude is straight up at the tip of the spear. This is the Fedayeen of the Trump base. This is literally the most diehard Trump supporter you can arrive at. He's not watching just regular Greg Gutfeld, He's not just sitting around watching Fox News. He's not even sitting around watching Tucker Carlson. He's watching Glenn Beck, the perhaps 15th most influential, or not even 25th most influential conservative on the independent media sphere. Okay?
Carrie Lake came out on Saturday. She's like, you know what? What really matters is election fraud and post-election fraud. It's like, you know what? The children of this country really, really matter. How can we just sweep them under the rug and not care? Move on, America. Move on.
Travis, thank you for calling. Let me ask you, is there anything that could be said that would make you go, okay, that's as good as it's going to get for here?
I want transparency, and
Bro, that question is so crazy, because he's just like, what will it take for you to shut the up? That's literally what Glenn is saying here. He's like, what will it take for you to move on, dude? Come on. Just give me the talking point. Give me the talking point so I can figure out what you can hear, so we can move on from this and never talk about it again.
I want justice. All them children, all those families, everything they went through, I don't want to know their names. I pray that God would be with them and give them some sort of peace if they could ever get it. I want transparency and I want justice.
Is there anything that anyone could produce to show you and have you go, okay, Epstein is dead.
Like, what? Please, bro. Travis, please. What will it take for you to shut the up, dog?
Gladwell is in prison, and that's the only justice you're going to be able to get.
I want evidence. Quit telling us that, he killed.
He's like, you think I haven't heard this one before? Yeah, he's doing Pawn Stars. best I can do is Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison and to shut the up. Okay? That's the best you're going to get, big dog.
Himself, and we saw everything. We have the information, by the way. It doesn't exist. Show us the information. Make me believe. Help me believe that he killed himself. Help me believe that maybe you don't have any evidence against people. Then show us that stuff. I do not trust the government at all, and yet they expect me to take their word for it. I'm sorry, you lost your credibility a long time ago, government. You need to start gaining the trust of these American people back. And I really hope and pray that they can at least provide some sort of evidence.
How do you prove the negative, Travis? See, that's where I'm at. I think I'm right where you are. I'm beyond. I don't have a horse in this race. What I have is common sense. And what I have is maybe a bunch of people hyping this up for a very long time, but then I need somebody to say, hey, these people were hyping this for this reason, and here, let me show you how that was done. I want to believe. I want to believe in the good. So help me, but I don't know how you prove a negative. How do you prove there is?
I think if I am guys like this, okay, I am deeply worried about where that anger and resentment will inevitably lead up to, because all of these guys got an arsenal of weapons, okay? Maybe they're on not the best mindset either, okay? Big dog, you can't come across like you are also refusing or, playing cover for the administration, okay? I'm just saying, dude. Not the most, not the best, most mentally sound individuals out here in the Glenn Beck audience, okay? I mean, fuck it. Glenn Beck himself was like insane, literally. That's the reason why they had to fire him from Fox News, because he was like losing his mind. And also the crippling addiction, I think, to painkillers, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, even worse, if you're the guy who they tricked into trusting, they would be bent on vengeance way more than they would be against those dumb socialists. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you're pissing off a lot of dudes that wear tinfoil hats with regular frequency, unironically, and have an arsenal of weapons. Okay? I mean, heck, 2 of the people that tried to kill the president were either former Trump voters or registered Republicans. You don't want those motherfuckers off of you, dude.
There's no evidence.
I absolutely agree. If all these people like me are all upset about this Epstein client list and it's all been for naught all these years, then help me believe that, you know what, you've been wrong this entire time, and actually there's some really good things out there. And if it's the opposite, show us that evidence too. We're all right now.
Yeah, Glenn, 4 months ago.
All right.
Who hid the Epstein list for years? We need full transparency.
So here's what Pam Bondi said.
It's pretty sick what that means.
Yeah. At a certain point, these guys in the independent media content sphere have to realize that, like, what these guys are doing under the auspices of independent media is actually no different than what Fox News does, and that it's no different than what MSNBC does for the Democratic Party. This is a break-off point for a lot of people, and they've never actually had to come to terms with this reality, because the administration is very good at drip feeding treats to the masses like this, okay? They're very good at like offering something here and there that is not actually disruptive to the pre-existing hierarchies of capital. Whereas you kind of start realizing all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, there are things that I want and these guys won't give it to me. And all of these supposedly independent voices online are actually defending the administration when the administration itself is actually not is doing something that I don't want it to do. It's because they are grifters, and they have always defended the establishment position, the Republican establishment position. That's it. That was always the case. Okay? And there are those who are not like in the MAGA loyalist payroll. That's why Andrew Schultz and them are like jumping ship, right? They were just hanger-ons and basically were simply like pushing this narrative because it was like a rocket ship, just like those people who were like pro Andrew Tate when Andrew Tate was like popping off, right? They were just hitching their wagon to an existing popular movement that they saw was blowing up. However, there are the actual establishment loyalists, like the people who are loyal to the Republican Party through and through, the establishment of the Republican Party. People like Glenn Beck, people like Charlie Kirk. They know where their bread is buttered. They will always defend the admin. Charlie Kirk hitched his wagon to Donald Trump after being an anti-Trump Republican in the primaries, and he never looked back. And he was rewarded endlessly for it. A lot of people don't know this. Charlie Kirk, back in the day, used to go on Fox News and on Donald Trump. Very quickly swapped when he saw the writing on the wall and became a pro-Trump guy, and he's never shied away from that. Ben Shapiro was anti-Trump because he was like, these guys were the pro-Republican Party soldiers. Once they realized quickly that Trump was the Republican Party and would be the future of the Republican Party, they became pro-Trump because they're just Republican Party mercenaries. Okay, they're Republican Party hitters. That's it. And for many in the audience, they never fully understood that these guys weren't actually independent voices at all and were simply doing propaganda at the behest of the Republicans. Anne, şu kapıyı kapatır mısın? Lütfen, çünkü orange oluyor kapı açık bıraktığın zaman benim burada. The light, no, that's not helping. That's not helping. No, because the light is shining off the door. Thank you. It's fine.
All we have to go on is the word and trust of the United States government, and they don't tell us anything. So this is what we found, and the documents we're going to give you are going to be, mostly redacted, but the information's there. We just can't show it to you. You got to help us out a little bit. There's a lot of good in this country, but you got to help us out a little bit.
Travis, I don't think anyone could have said it better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Here's Megyn Kelly.
I believe Trump's in the Epstein files insofar as he was friends with Epstein for 15 years. He knew Epstein, and there are people who hate Trump who probably there's some scurrilous allegations in there, but nobody believes Trump had an affinity for the underage girl. That's just
Trump literally, one, said his own underage at the time daughter was sexy, okay, Ivanka. Trump literally also has, on the record, said Jeffrey Epstein likes him young, just like I do. So no, the idea that he doesn't have an affinity for underage girls or whatever is insane. He quite literally associated himself with Jeffrey Epstein on that affinity. Ridiculous.
such, maybe he was at some Epstein party. Trump says he never went to Epstein Island, and I believe that too. That would be something to extraordinarily lie about. I believe Trump's in the Epstein files insofar as he was friends with Epstein for 15 years. He knew Epstein, and there are people who hate Trump who probably there's some scurrilous allegations.
Oh my God, I just realized Trump was also tight with Mr. Bad Boy Records himself. P. Diddy too. Trump was also homies with the Diddler. That motherfucker's got a bad track record, bro. That's crazy. Bro, this is the craziest way.
Joining me now.
This is the craziest way to cover the Jeffrey Epstein situation. What the are they just like bored and they ran out of takes? That was wild, man. I don't know. It's as close to an open and shut situation as you're going to get with like a lot of understandable curiosity surrounding the parts that we do not have verifiable evidence for. And they still found a way to talk about it in the weirdest way possible, where he's like, well, you got to get into the mind of a pedophile, right? Motherfucker said he doesn't think Bill Clinton is a pedophile.
Now, attorney David Schoen, he was hired to represent Jeffrey Epstein 9 days before Epstein died. He's also served as one of the President Trump's lawyers for his second impeachment. David, good to see you. You previously praised the Attorney General Pam Bondi for, as you called it, seeking transparency in the Epstein case. What is your verdict now that the DOJ says nothing to see here?
I don't really recall praising her for that, but I'm sure I did if you say I did. I think that the thing has been handled clumsily, quite frankly. I think that they jumped the gun. I think they spoke before they knew what they had. I think there's a certain level of hypocrisy from Congressman Khanna's position now. Where was he?
Oh, yeah. No. It's not that they're terrible. This is the perfect analogy. It's like looking at the JFK stuff, right? And then arriving at the most insane position, which is, I don't really think JFK even died. It's like looking at 9/11 and being like, oh, actually, it didn't happen. Sure, there are people who are that insane. Not many of them exist. Their minds are fascinating. But he's like, oh, yeah, the The Epstein stuff, it's probably, I mean, none of these guys were even pedophiles, probably.
During the last 4 years, the Biden administration, we know, for sure that they had all of the same records. Remember, Ms. Maxwell was prosecuted by Mr. Comey's daughter and others. They've had access, a lot of people have had access to all of the papers related to Jeffrey Epstein. But I think it was handled clumsily. I don't believe there's a client list. I don't believe Jeffrey Epstein planned to blackmail anyone. I don't believe Jeffrey Epstein was in the employ of the Mossad or any other intelligence agency or any of these crazy Tucker Carlson theories that are going around.
Well, you say that you asked Epstein, frankly, if he had any dirt on President Trump. What did he tell you?
He said absolutely not. It was an important issue to him. This was before I knew President Trump at all, of course. This is 2019. I don't suggest that our conversation was limited just to that.
Sure.
But
Yo, I don't trust this guy at all, bro. That's crazy. This dude, David Schoen, don't Google David Schoen Trump. This dude was Jeffrey Epstein's last lawyer. Jeffrey Epstein hired him, or the family trust, like, I guess, whatever, hired him 9 days before he died. Okay? I'm already incredibly suspect on this. Oh my God, he's Bannon's lawyer. Oh my God, he was Bannon's lawyer. Oh my God, he was Steve Bannon's lawyer. And he represented President Donald Trump during his second impeachment trial of the United States Senate. Oh my God, it was Steve Bannon that got him, this guy probably. Oh my God, the cogwheels are turning in my mind. Dude, Steve Bannon has 15 hours of deposition footage of Jeffrey Epstein. That's another guy that is incredibly involved with Jeffrey Epstein that kind of doesn't get additional scrutiny. Steve Bannon interviewed Jeffrey Epstein and has 15 hours of Jeffrey Epstein footage. And initially, what he told Jeffrey Epstein was that he was interviewing him to basically set him up for trial, like to coach him on deposition. Steve Bannon also said that he wanted to use the footage for like some documentary or something. He never released it. He never released that footage. He has 15 hours of Jeffrey Epstein footage out there. I suspect he was the one who linked this guy up with the attorney. According to Michael Wolff's book, Steve Bannon took part in a media strategy sessions with Epstein, his lawyers, and Ehud Barak, gaming out how they could restore his image after the 2018 Miami Herald series. This led to Bannon conducting 15 hours of prep interviews with Epstein. Yeah. So where's the comms piece in this? Asked Bannon over the phone. Who's handling it? Who's on point? Are these your people, Reed? Well, okay, in fact, there really hasn't been anything in place because largely the view has been, let's not call more attention to this or antagonize the judges this has been before, and not wanting to be seen as attacking the victim, so we haven't. Let me get this straight, said Bannon. I think I understand this, but it strains credulity. There's nothing in place. There hasn't been anything in place. No communications teams. What was the response from Jeffrey's side to this Florida story? Who engaged? In 2018 of November, Miami Herald had published a multi-part story recounting the earlier charges against Epstein with further devastating accounts from the victims directly impugning Acosta's motivations in the plea deal. If every successive story about Epstein over the years had once more revived what might seem to have been a fading issue in the new climate and now directly tying figures in the Trump administration to Epstein, the Miami Herald story gave it rocket boosters. We didn't engage, said Epstein. Did we even know about it? Asked Weingarten. No, Roy Black's office may have gotten a call, but we didn't respond, said Epstein. Black was another world-class criminal attorney who had been among the dream team that Epstein had assembled in his first case, a team whose warring egos Weingarten believed had a lot to do with the case's peculiar and ever unresolved outcome. I'm part of the problem here, I have to say, Weingarten pulled on his face. We have just felt, and maybe this was wrong, that any effort to defend Jeffrey publicly stirs the pot and makes it more likely than not that people are going to come out of the woodwork. This is crazy, said Bannon. Well, yeah, true. It's 90%. Steve Bannon then continued, according to Michael Wolff's book, continued in doing media training sessions with Jeffrey Epstein, and has once again 15 hours, by his own admission, 15 hours of Jeffrey Epstein tapes that he personally recorded, where he's like interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. He's doing like a mock trial, a fake deposition, in order to get him ready, in order for him to get ready for trial. And it's crazy to me because Steve Bannon himself has been able to get away with it. Weirdly enough. What?
Lately there's been a lot of...
Dude, come on. Is Jamie Dimon on the list? Yes. Yes, of course Jamie Dimon's on the list. Bro, JP Morgan literally had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein for their direct involvement with Epstein. $290 million.
This was at a time in which it would have behooved Mr. Epstein to give up every wealthy and famous person that he knew in his own defense. And so specifically, I asked him about Donald Trump because, they had been publicly associated in the past, and Trump threw him out of his club years earlier. He said absolutely not, and it was important to him that people not cast aspersions on Donald Trump and others who we spoke about by wrongly associating him with any of his activities. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein ran...
Wait, what? I'm sorry, what? You're talking about a prolific sex trafficker of children, right? See, you don't understand. He had a moral side to him. See, you don't understand. Jeffrey Epstein, prolific sex trafficker of children, but also a person who really cared about the truth and did not want Trump to be associated with his crimes at all.
With a lot of wealthy and famous people whose names, everybody knows. The fact that they might appear in an address book doesn't mean that they did anything nefarious with him. He had a photo array, for example, at his home with some of these rich and famous people with different stories for each photo, which I very much enjoyed hearing, quite frankly. For example, a picture of Bill Gates with a dollar bill. I asked, what's that all about? He said he made a bet with Bill Gates. What was he going to bet Bill Gates? So he bet him $1 and he won. Those kinds of things. But that doesn't mean that any of them had anything to do with the women. I would say one last thing I want to say about this, this call for a special prosecutor and so on. There is a cottage industry of lawyers representing victims against Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein estate. You can be sure that if any of these famous people who haven't been sued already were with these young women, the young women would be able to identify.
Why is CNN having Donald Trump and Steve Bannon's lawyer, who also happened to be Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer? Like, what? Shouldn't you call in the question this guy's reputation here? Hold Richmond, Ort Gove Richmond. That's not. Why'd you lie about Diddy? Diddy never raped anyone. It was proven that everything was consensual in the trial. Do you think 12 jurors all thought he was innocent of rape off vibes? There was no evidence of Diddy raping anyone. Stop reading headlines. Perhaps I personally have an opinion that the trial was a sham. Are you Diddy? Like, who the what? Excuse me. O.J. Simpson very clearly was exonerated of murder. Why are you saying that he still definitely did that? Really up. It's kind of crazy because like this is perhaps the most guilty worst guy. He said free Diddy. Okay, man. P. Diddy absolutely coerced people into doing sex acts in many of his parties. It's crazy to me that you assume. It's crazy to me that you're like, well, the jury didn't seem to think so. So I guess, okay. Like, it's so obvious that he had an incredible legal team and was able to do tremendous work against the prosecution, which overextended, and they lost the case. That doesn't mean that we can't make up our own minds about it. This is first this was Kevin Spacey. First it was Kevin Spacey. Now it's free Diddy. What's happening, bro? I've seen the tapes in my own two eyes of Diddy beating the out of his girlfriend. I saw it in a bathrobe.
Them, and the lawyers would have brought a lawsuit against them a long time ago. So if what people are waiting for is some smoking gun that someone famous, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and so on, was with these young women, I don't think there's any such list, and he never intended any blackmail.
Well, let me ask you, if everything you say is true and you've laid it out quite precisely, why is none of this believed by the supporters who say, I don't trust the government, I don't trust DOJ, I think there's something there, and those who are elite are getting away with something else?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's because they were told, we're going to release the entire file and there's such and such and such and such. I think that it hadn't been reviewed.
But wait,
frankly.
David, I don't want to, hold on. But when you heard statements like Pam Bondi, for example, saying, I'm reviewing a client list on my desk or otherwise, you heard people talking about client lists and beyond. What did you think? Did you think that there was some reference that you had not heard of or that it was all make-believe?
I didn't think there was a client list. I think what she meant was that she had a file on her desk.
Bro, this guy's tell is so severe. He's blinking like they're flashing lights in his face. He's just he's blinking so hard anytime he has to say some. He's Morse coding that he's lying.
That she was reviewing. I think their position now is they reviewed the file. There's no smoking gun about blackmail and so on. They also came to the conclusion that he committed suicide. I don't happen to believe that.
Why?
I can't prove it and they can't prove it. I don't believe it for two reasons. Anecdotally, as I say, I met with him 9 days before. I know that during the course of that week, he was giving instructions right up until Friday based on the defense that we had talked about. He gave me another assignment that was forward-looking. But more importantly, Michael Baden, who to me is the top forensic medical examiner in the world, went through an independent medical examination with him just after he died.
I mean, it's his lawyer. Of course, his position is that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. He's arguing that, right? Isn't there like a, I mean, he brought in a forensic examiner to specifically make that case.
With the assistant New York City medical examiner. And Michael Baden said that medical examiner couldn't come to a conclusion. And he, Michael Baden, has never in the tens of thousands of autopsies he's done seen injuries like Jeffrey Epstein had consistent with suicide. I also have had calls from people who had jail cells nearby. I've seen the layout of the jail cell, that sort of thing. I'm also surprised the Justice Department never interviewed me, who had seen him earlier, or other people. Anyway, it's my belief, but I can't prove it, and I don't have a conspiracy theory on who killed him.
Well, a DOJ Inspector General report did cite a combination of negligence and misconduct and jail staff failures that contributed to an environment that led to Epstein's death. But it states the New York Medical Examiner determined that Epstein died from suicide. That DOJ IG report adds the FBI determined Epstein's death was not the result of a criminal act. So I'll see what they might respond to what you've said as well. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Laura.
I want to talk more. Nice to see you too. I want to talk more about this with Scott Jennings, who is a CNN senior political commentator and also host of the Scott Jennings Show on Salem Radio, and Alencia Johnson, former senior advisor to the Biden 2020 campaign. All right, you heard the way that he laid out just now, and of course he's said all the things that I'm sure the DOJ would like people to believe, but it's not sticking for whatever.
Oh, she don't believe it. Oh, okay, I'm back in. Okay, Clinton News Network. She said, I'm sure the DOJ would love for everyone to believe what he's saying. Yeah, she was looking right at him. She was looking at how much. What's your opinion on the suicide thing? Oh, dude, he got clapped. Get the out of here, suicide. Okay, dude, sure. Yeah, he just got real sad all of a sudden. It was like, oh, man, I'm outed as a pedophile. Oh, like, dude, what are you talking about? He went to jail last time. No, I don't believe he committed suicide in the incredibly specific time frame where the cameras happen to not be working and the guards happen to be sleeping, where literally all the planets aligned, and he was able to commit suicide successfully in a suicide cell, in a suicide watch cell. And then the government decided to release the camera footage of not even his cell, by the way, just the cell block that he was on, not showing his room suspiciously. And even that footage had 3 minutes missing. Get the out of here, dog. Are you crazy? Because the cameras that were looking at his door were broken. And it wasn't the last time this had happened. This is the second time this has happened. The reason why he was in the suicide watch, the suicide ward, was because he was put into a cell with Officer Nicholas Tartaglio, this roid junkie cop, former cop, who was a psychopathic drug dealer who, let's just say, tried to kill him as well. But then they also said, oh, that was suicide. He tried to commit suicide. And guess what? We don't know the exact details of that one either, because the cameras were broken on that one too. Oh no, broken cameras twice for one guy. They move him around and the cameras break again. What a crazy coincidence. What an incredible coincidence. It's just so wild. Also, the same institution that he was locked up in had not had a single suicide for the past 30 years. Jeffrey Epstein had to be the first guy. Wow. Yeah, just like Jean-Luc Brunel, Jeffrey Epstein's associate that created MC2, like modeling agencies, where he routinely sex trafficked women for Jeffrey Epstein. He also got arrested in Paris, also committed suicide in a jail. What the what are the odds? What are the odds? Guess what? The cameras weren't working there too. I am losing it. Wow. What are the odds, dude? Isn't that crazy? How does this keep happening?
Reason. Why is this the political hill that?
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's former cellmate cleared of wrongdoing an incident that preceded his death. Oh, Yep, Officer Tartaglione, baby.
So many are willing to die on. Why is it that there are so many people who say, nope, I don't believe it, I don't trust it?
Well, it was taken as an article of faith for many years. That
what was
that this
I don't
the
know,
idea
you're
that there's
sounding like a conspiracy theorist. The Jeffrey Epstein stuff is so funny because you have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe that he killed himself. Okay, like every single thing that I just mentioned to you, as far as like cameras literally breaking suspiciously, no matter which cell Jeffrey Epstein is in, whenever they keep saying that he actually killed himself or tried to kill himself. And then you just, like, you have to sound insane. Everything that I just described to you, as far as, like, cameras breaking, his associates also, quote-unquote, killing themselves, but in Paris, all of this stuff, like, yeah, you think all of that happened on its own? Like, it was, there is a reasonable explanation for this? Because I don't entertain conspiracy theories with regular frequency. I love conspiracy theories. I cover them all the time. You know I'm fascinated with it. But there is one thing I don't do, which is entertain conspiracy theories. Think of the, I don't lend it any sort of credibility. This, on the other hand, is not a conspiracy theory. This, on the other hand, is basically just a conspiracy, like as in to conspire to kill Jeffrey Epstein, because Jeffrey Epstein was conspiring with numerous intelligence agencies to do a blackmail sex trafficking of minors ring.
information that we're not seeing as the general public, and people said that, bought into it. And so Donald Trump wins the election. He appoints Pam Bondi, he appoints Dan Bongino, he appoints Kash Patel. These are all people that this same audience has, confidence in. We trust their judgment.
Like, please, guys, explain to me why prolific pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, that literally had been in prison already and had been released after his sweetheart plea bargain deal that no one has ever gotten, okay? Please explain to me why he was closely associated with not one, not two, not three, not three, but four former Israeli prime ministers. Can you please explain that to me? Why was he the middleman that connected Benjamin Netanyahu, the current prime minister of Israel, to J.P. Morgan by way of Jamie Dimon? Why was Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, literally at his house in 2016 trying to cover his face? Really bad at spycraft, by the way. Just a horrible job trying to cover his face, coming out out of Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion. Why the f was he hanging out with Bill Clinton all the time? Why did Bill and Hillary Rodham Clinton routinely go to his mansion in New Mexico called Zorro Mansion? Why did they always go there? Why were former CIA heads literally talking to Jeffrey Epstein all the time, long after it was known that he was a pedophile? What reason could there be for this? Why is some random who was like a math teacher that was hired for the Dalton School by Attorney General at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's assassination, Bill Barr? Bill Barr's father hired him to be a teacher at the Dalton School. He didn't have the qualifications for it. Why did he mysteriously get, with no degree, an endless amount of money from the likes of Les Wexner, for example, the owner of L Brands, Victoria's Secret, and many others? Why? Why did he have quadrillions of dollars, dude? Why? No one has ever been able to explain why he had quintillions of dollars. Literally, no one explains it. There is no explanation for it. How did that happen? How? Power of manifestation? He found it. Felix Biederman has an explanation for it. He calls it, he just won the lottery every day. That's Felix Biederman's explanation. Is Jeffrey Epstein was just so good at winning the lottery. He just won it every day of the week. Yeah, what was it? Is it that he was just like really giving really good tax advice? Like, why the would Bill Gates talk to Jeffrey Epstein, man? Bill Gates, one of the richest people on the planet. What the is Bill Gates doing with Jeffrey Epstein? What is he doing with Jeffrey Epstein, dude? Was he getting tax advice from Jeffrey Epstein? What kind of lived experience does Jeffrey Epstein have? What can he offer to Bill Gates? Was he just a great conversationalist? Stephen Hawking.
And I think it's just hard sometimes to believe something for a long time and then be told, you know what we believed is not the case. I think.
Who does that hurt, though? If that's the changing view, if the idea is, I don't trust what I've heard right now, does that?
Yeah, like, look, so Here's one other thing. How many Dems actually realize that the crank theory is that Epstein blackmailed politicians on behalf of Mossad? Trump's own Labor Secretary, Alexander Acosta, who was a U.S. attorney for South Florida when Epstein was prosecuted, was told to lay off because he belonged to intelligence. But yeah, sure, it's a crank theory because it doesn't fit the worldview of Atlantic Magazine. Felix Biederman, the logical, sane opinion. Jeffrey Epstein made hundreds of millions of dollars by winning the lottery a lot. He befriended Mandelson, Clinton, etc. due to his great manners. After that, the DOJ erroneously believed the then unknown conspiracy that he runs blackmail for intel and gave him a completely unprecedented deal for a horrifying series of crimes. After that, accused rapist and private equity titan Leon Black gives Epstein hundreds of millions so Epstein will help him with his taxes. Then he killed himself in jail. This is what you want. Like, if you are to believe the media narrative on this, if you are to believe the New York Times on this, what Felix is saying is what has to make sense. Jeffrey Epstein, once in a lifetime lottery winner. Nobody knows exactly how he made so much money. Nobody fully understands it. Okay. People just keep handing him the keys to the castle over and over and over again. Okay. Literal prime ministers are attending his home. Like, they're going to his home, even though he was already at that point outed as a pedophile. Okay. It's so crazy. They just keep doing it. Why? So charismatic. The most charismatic person of all time. Prince Andrews. Okay. Princes are going to his house. All of this stuff happens. He gets the most unprecedented deal for a pedophile sex trafficker it will never happen again. Okay. Like, it's crazy that, like, this is not even something you can get out of as like a super wealthy guy. Like, Harvey Weinstein went to prison. You know what I mean? He's super wealthy. He was super powerful. He went to prison. You know what I mean? Jeffrey Epstein was doing Harvey Weinstein to minors, bro, to minors. And he was allowed to leave the prison. How the did that happen? Have you always held this view? What? Yes. Or is it a recent change? What? No, I have. You've been in here subscribed for 2 months, chatter. No, for years I've talked about this. What are you, crazy? Epstein was such a popular subject initially because there was literally no way to deny something was going on. I just don't get what the point of even pretending that it's some fantastical QAnon thing at this point. The only people who are even openly amenable to it are probably real life friends with Glenn Dubin and Leon Black. Like, it makes no sense, man. It makes no sense. Forgive me, I only know the basic outlines, but what is the ostensible reason for his wealth? Generic investments. He bought CSGO skins before anyone knew there was going to be a market there. He also, as Felix also points out here, not only had hundreds of millions of dollars from other disgraced sexual assaulters, but he literally got power of attorney over Les Wexner, the owner of L Brands, okay? The guy who owns like Victoria's Secret and like, think about that. Think about that. Why the would a billionaire just literally give him unlimited power and control over all of his financial assets, bro? That doesn't make... No one is supposed to ask a question on this? Like, this is not weird? Hasan, more like Hasopstein. Keck. But like, if you understand that he didn't commit, then why do you think they aren't withholding the docs? Like, do you think some outside force killed him, but at the same time, there's nothing major in those files? What? No, they're never releasing the files. Wake up. What the Trump is literally saying they're not releasing the files. Why would they release the files? They killed the dude. He was the only loose end. And I suspect, like, they just are convinced that Ghislaine Maxwell won't say anything. Maybe Ghislaine Maxwell will also get in her feelings soon, and we'll see what happens then. There was never a moment where I thought that they were going to release the files. But like, if you understand that he didn't commit, then why do you think they aren't withholding the docs? The angle that these people take is so obvious. Oh, you were saying the opposite thing. They say he didn't commit, but they also aren't covering it up because they don't want to seem too in line with the admin. Yeah, okay. You were making the unconvincing argument that the administration is making. Yeah, it's like Jeffrey Epstein, innocent, okay, but also killed himself because he was really sad. But also he's innocent and there was no one else, even though we know hundreds of people have gone to his island. Hundreds of incredibly wealthy people have been on his private jet, including former prime ministers of Israel, other leaders. Your live reaction to Epstein's death? Oh, come the on. Epstein's dead? Come the on. Like, there was never a moment where I entertained the notion that there was a sex trafficking ring operating out of a basement of a pizza shop in DC, okay? There was never a moment where I ever entertained the idea that, like, Wayfair was selling children. As a matter of fact, many people have yelled at me throughout the years for never entertaining idiotic conspiracy theories. Jeffrey Epstein is not one of those things. That's a real thing, okay? Like, that's crazy. There are psychotic conspiracy theories hallucinated by people who are mentally unwell. And then there are real conspiracies, okay? Not a conspiracy theory, but an actual conspiracy to conspire to commit crimes. And this is one of those things where it's like, there are so many people. It doesn't make any sense.
Harm Trump and the Republican Party? Does it harm Trump in particular?
Look, I don't know. I mean, there are certainly people that have legitimate questions about what happened. I mean, I've heard now 2 lawyers, both your guest tonight and Arthur Aidala, who I was on with Friday night, both raised questions about whether they believe he even committed suicide. So you can see there are actually, in the know people who are still raising legitimate questions about this case. And you can see why the general public would also have those questions. At the same time, if you vote for Donald Trump and you have trust in his judgment and the people he's appointed, at some point you have to trust their judgment. I mean, you put them in charge of this. And I think what Doug said is important to know. The Biden people had this stuff. If there was something incriminating about Trump, it would have come out. And also now the Trump people have this stuff. And if there was something incriminating about, Bill Gates or Bill Clinton, it would certainly have come out. And so I guess at some juncture, if you trust the people that you voted for, you trust the people that you voted for.
Well, let me ask you, I want to play for you as well some of what the supporters this weekend were saying during the Turning Point USA conference. They told CNN this about the Epstein file. Listen to this, Valencia.
I think they're going to maybe give us pieces and maybe not the whole thing and think that that's going to suffice. And I don't think people are going to be quiet about it until they really do it. But who knows if we'll ever know the true story.
Well, I think that if they don't release the Epstein files, whatever J.D. Vance says then is irrelevant because it's like everybody's going to take it as like a lie because of what Donald Trump did. But I think J.D. Vance wants these files released as well.
And this is the first topic that all of us as Americans, not as Democrats, not as liberals, not as Republicans, are actually lining together and saying we all want the Epstein files. And I said, come on, Donald, give us those files.
Well, Matt, you hear what they're saying, Valencia. Obviously, there's an issue about the trust, about transparency, and about how this might impact the ability to set things straight. You also heard from the daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who was saying that, suggesting there might be some need to
come on, Donald. I love that guy.
Have more transparency. Is the political pressure working to Democrats' advantage?
Although James Elefante is a deeply creep-ass human, no matter what the fuck's in his basement, no normal person makes jokes about babies like that. What do you... Oh my God, dude, stop. Are you still Pizzagate guy? Really? Is that the guy who owned the pizza shop? Is that what you're saying? That was crazy. That is actually crazy. See, this is what I mean. There are things that are just like insane. You think that the Democrats are, and Republicans too, like they're just getting together and they're like, they have to f children. And the only place to get the children, the pizza shop, Comet Pizzeria. Like, that's crazy to still be advocating for this in 2025. Oh my God. Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria or whatever the no.
I think that's what you see Democrats trying to use, right? It's this conversation around trust. The Trump campaign made a really big deal about the Epstein files. J.D. Vance was talking about this on the campaign trail. Pam Bondi was talking about this. They had people walking out of the White House with these binders talking about the Epstein files. And so they were stoking their base around this conversation, around this, big gotcha moment. We're going to show you this list and show you.
The thing is, if you really care about Pizzagate, you can read those emails on WikiLeaks and there's nothing in there. It's the most boring, hey, let's meet here and get pizza type emails every time. I know. But you see, pizza is code for a child that they want to have sex with. Once you substitute the word pizza for child Hillary Clinton wants to, all of a sudden, or hot dogs as a child Hillary Clinton wants to have sex with, all of a sudden the clues are right there. Or maybe it's for pizza, dude, and also hot dog. Like you didn't crack some major conspiracy.
In these files, and then all of a sudden did a bait and switch. And Democrats are using this as a moment to say you actually can't trust them to do the thing that they said that they were going to do. And I think...
Does it risk being backfired on them, though, in the sense, to his point, and I've heard others say this very notion, Valencia, that, well...
Is Hillary Clinton a pedophile, too? I feel like we always hear about Bill, but I didn't know she was going to the New Mexico ranch. Yes. I mean, I don't know if she's a pedophile, but she was going to the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, the Jeffrey Epstein Ranch, with Bill.
Democrats had it before. Some people have accused Democrats of essentially sort of dangling something as a setup for Republicans or those who are.
Dude, I love you and I'm a leftist, but Pizzagate is like 80% real. Dude, do you think that these guys are just like sitting in the Situation Room and just like children that they hired, that they literally got delivered from a pizza restaurant? Like, are you stupid? What? There is no evidence for any of this. What do you mean 80% real? You are out of your mind, dude. $65,000 in rented pizza. Oh, I don't even remember the Comminoids Rising. Oh my God. I don't even know what you're trying to say. Rented pizza. Pizzagate is the dumbest 4chan meme, with the basis being cheese pizza has the same acronym as was used as a replacement for child pornography in the early 2000s. Basically the same dumb origin as QAnon, and the same dumb people fell for it. Yeah, it's so nuts. It's so insane. Like, there are real horrific crimes that powerful people commit on a daily basis, and these dumb fucks will just be like, nah, you know what's the real secret conspiracy? Tom Hanks has been cloned, and every single Hollywood personality is actually secretly a pedophile, and Donald Trump arrested all of them and assassinated them and then cloned them, and now all of the people that are walking around in Hollywood are just clones of their former selves. How? What is happening? You're just schizophrenic, dog. Get help. Seek out help.
Leaving this, what do you say?
Look, I actually don't think Democrats are making this as big of a central issue. I think it's one of the big pieces of a broader puzzle, right, about the trust with the Trump campaign. This is not the central issue for Democrats, but it is just a piece of this puzzle as we're going into some special elections, our Virginia gubernatorial race, all of these things to talk about. You can't trust Donald Trump and the Republican Party to do what they say they're going to do. And here's another example of that. Not the central example, but another example.
Okay, I'm joined now by someone, and this is interesting, with intimate knowledge of the very jail cell Epstein died in. Michael
What?
Francis. He was a capo for the Colombo crime family in the 1980s. He served time in the exact cell where Epstein was later held. Michael, welcome back to the program. Tell us about
this. Is some DJ Vlad shit right here, dude. News Nation is my favorite.
That cell, and what do you make of these revelations that there is a minute missing from the surveillance video, Michael?
Well, listen, you know, I spent 7 months on that tier and in those cells. And the first thing I have to say, there's no way you are able to commit suicide. There's just no way. There's no way to hang yourself. There's nothing from the ceiling. There's nothing from the bed. You'd have to be a midget and work really hard to try to hang yourself. And I don't think you're going to